Gi-jun was the most feared assassin in Korea. This time, his opponent was Kyoto, a karate master from Japan. To fight for control of territory, the gangs from both countries sent their best men into a deadly showdown. At first, Kyoto dominated the fight with overwhelming strength, but Gi-jun quickly spotted his weakness and ended it all with a single, brutal kick. The Yakuza, unwilling to accept defeat, drew their blades in rage, but Gi-jun showed no fear. Wherever he went, no one survived. In the end, the entire Japanese gang was wiped out. However, Gi-jun suffered critical injuries. His Achilles tendon was cut, and he was forced to live in seclusion deep in the forest. 11 years later, the Korean underworld had evolved into the Ju-woon group. Chairman Lee never forgot Gi-jun's sacrifices and decided to groom his younger brother as the future successor. But just then, a new power quietly rose. Led by Chairman Gu, the Bongsan Group was quietly plotting to carve up the Korean market. On the surface, the two chairmen kept a friendly, non-aggressive relationship, but Chairman Gu's son, Jun-mo, was a spoiled troublemaker. Recently, he hired 2 American hitmen to eliminate one of their own executives. To protect his son's reputation, Chairman Gu couldn't handle the situation openly. So, he secretly asked Chairman Lee to eliminate the hitmen. In return, he was even willing to hand over territory in Uido. Chairman Lee initially had no intention of interfering, but the offer was just too tempting to ignore. So he handed the mission to Gi-seok, telling him this experience would be a huge asset when he was running the company one day. Soon after, Gi-seok stormed into Bongsan Group and ordered the hitmen to get out of Korea within 3 days. Jun-mo was deeply offended and snapped at him for meddling. Gi-seok coldly replied that it was Chairman Gu who swallowed his pride and personally begged Chairman Lee for help. Hearing this, Jun-mo deliberately brought up how Gi-jun's Achilles tendons were cut and even mocked the way he walked. Before he could finish his words, Gi-seok slapped him twice across the face, loud and hard. Jun-mo roared in fury, but Gi-seok walked away without even looking back. Later, Gi-seok paid a visit to his elder brother, whom he hadn't seen in 6 years. He mentioned that Chairman Lee wanted him to take over Ju-woon Group, but he joked that he wanted to quit and run a camping site with Gi-jun. It turned out that Gi-seok had long grown tired of gang violence. All he ever wanted was a simple, quiet life. Gi-jun sensed something was off and asked what was going on. Gi-seok just smiled and left in a hurry. But as soon as he arrived at the parking lot, he was ambushed. A group of delinquents, armed with weapons, closed in, unaware they had picked the wrong target. Gi-seok knocked them down one by one with his bare hands. He could have ended it right there, but chose to spare them out of mercy. However, mercy to his enemies was cruelty to himself. Not long after, Gi-jun received the news of his younger brother's death. Ju-woon Group held a grand funeral in Gi-seok's honor. Jun-mo smirked before the memorial, even tossing the flowers carelessly onto the table. Before leaving, he even taunted Gi-seok's men for failing to protect their boss. Hae-byom realized Jun-mo must have had something to do with Gi-seok's death. Just then, a prosecutor came to pay his respects. It was Gyum-sun, Chairman Lee's son. Manager Choi stepped in to stop him, urging him to go home, because Chairman Lee had strictly forbidden his son from getting involved in anything related to Ju-woon Group. While the two were arguing, Gi-jun arrived. All the gang members bowed respectfully to him, but Gi-jun only cared about where his brother was. Manager Choi led him to the morgue and explained that Gi-seok had clashed with some runaway kids. Gi-jun knew his brother's skills and realized this wasn't a simple accident. Later, he visited Chairman Lee. Chairman Ju was surprised to see him, since Gi-jun had promised never to return. Gi-jun explained today was his brother's funeral, so he had to come. Then he brought up the promise made 11 years ago. He would live as if he were dead, but in return, Chairman Lee had to keep Gi-seok out of harm's way. Gi-jun had kept his word all these years, but Chairman Lee hadn't. So now, he would seek justice for his brother in his own way. The next day, Gi-jun went to the police station and met the suspect in his brother's murder. He didn't ask Hui-chan who gave the order. Instead, he struck up a conversation and found out Hui-chan also had a younger brother. Following that lead, Gi-jun tailed Hui-chan's brother to an internet cafe, but it was a trap set by a group of delinquents. Calmly, Gi-jun asked who was behind them. The boys laughed at the arrogant cripple and even threatened to kill him. Without another word, Gi-jun knocked out the sneaky boy with a single punch. Despite being out of the gang for years, his fighting skills hadn't faded at all. It wasn't long before all the boys were badly beaten, and their leader begged for mercy, but it was too late. The fight also proved that these weak kids could never have killed Gi-seok. After listening to a recording of his younger brother's cries for help, Hui-chan finally told the truth. A secret chat room called the Graveyard specifically hired runaway kids like him for jobs. Hui-chan said he just followed orders and he had no right to ask who was behind it. The Graveyard even hired a personal lawyer to clean up after these juvenile criminals. Following this lead, Gi-jun tracked down the lawyer. Under threat, the lawyer revealed that the Graveyard was an agency connecting clients with substitutes. Some powerful people would try everything to avoid punishment after committing crimes. The Graveyard posts messages tailored to their needs. Runaway kids, lured by huge bounties, were willing to confess to any crime. If they went to jail, they could even avoid military service. Once the groundwork was laid, the lawyers took care of the rest. She told Gi-jun that if he wanted to know more, he should go find Sim-won. Gi-jun followed the address to the Graveyard's headquarters. The staff sensed his hostility and tried to stop him, but within 10 seconds, everyone was lying on the floor. When Sim-won found out the intruder was Gi-jun, his face turned pale. He tried to call his men to retreat, but Gi-jun's fists were already out of control. By the time Sim-won arrived, the company was in ruins. At first, he greeted Gi-jun with a smile, but seeing Gi-jun's terrifying gaze, he immediately dropped to his knees in fear. As a businessman, Sim-won wasn't supposed to leak client information, but to survive, he confessed that it was Jun-mo who had hired those kids to kill Gi-seok. At the same time, Chairman Lee ordered his informant to investigate the real killer. Soon Mr. Kim discovered that Jun-mo was behind it all. He advised Chairman Lee to use this chance to turn the tables and seize full control. What they didn't know was that Gyum-san was eavesdropping on their conversation. He had secretly planted a bug in his father's office and seemed to be plotting something. After careful consideration, Chairman Lee decided to confront Chairman Gu. It turned out the two had maintained peace all these years because of one rule: anyone who crossed the other would pay dearly. Chairman Lee added there were no exceptions, even if the issue was Chairman Gu's own son. Hearing this, Chairman Gu realized that his son was involved in Gi-seok's death. Just then, Gi-jun appeared. He admitted he already knew the whole truth. He warned Chairman Gu not to interfere, just to watch as he settled everything by the rule. Chairman Gu was desperate, knowing Gi-jun would surely kill his son. He begged Chairman Lee for help, even offering to transfer the management of De Crow Hotel to him. After weighing the pros and cons, Chairman Lee agreed to the deal. However, Manager Choi could not accept that Gi-seok had been wrongfully killed and wanted to take revenge for him. Chairman Lee angrily scolded him, asking if he was trying to rebel. Manager Choi had no choice but to obey his boss's decision. After hearing the entire conversation, Gumson decided to use the opportunity to sway Manager Choi to his side. He said he wanted to completely destroy Bongsan Group and get justice for Gi-seok. This proposal caused Manager Choi to waver internally. Soon after, Chairman Gu found his son and beat him severely. He questioned Jun-mo about why he targeted Gi-seok. Jun-mo explained that Gi-seok humiliated him in front of his subordinates, so he wanted to prove himself. Chairman Gu was furious at his son's stupidity, but he had to risk everything to protect his only child. However, a spoiled brat like Jun-mo could never understand his father's sacrifice. Meanwhile, Gi-jun went to the baseball stadium and asked an old friend to make a special bat for him. Byung-ho was sorry for Gi-seok's death and promised to help Gi-jun get revenge. When Gi-jun returned home, he encountered his younger brother's loyal subordinate. Hae-byum was dissatisfied that Chairman Lee gave up seeking justice for the deceased Gi-seok just for a hotel. He decided to stand by Gi-jun and join him in seeking revenge. Afterward, Hae-byum went to the graveyard and hired people to find Junmo. Once the post was up, the whole city searched and quickly tracked Junmo's location. However, Junmo was still having fun at the nightclub, completely unaware that danger was approaching. Meanwhile, Chairman Gu sent someone to kill Gi-jun, but he firmly refused. The assassin knew full well he was no match for Gi-jun. Before leaving, he reminded Chairman Gu that Gi-seok's death must have been suspicious. Inspired by this, Chairman Gu sent his men to investigate further. He then ordered Manager Kim to immediately take Junmo to a safe house. However, Junmo refused to leave. He wanted to know why everyone was so terrified of such a loser. The secretary, losing patience, forcefully took Junmo away. Just then, Gi-jun stormed into the nightclub, full of rage. None of the bodyguards stood a chance against his iron fists. Yet, the foolish Junmo kept mocking the cripple. Gi-jun wasted no time and landed a punch to his abdomen, then firmly gripped his neck. Suddenly, the secretary attacked Gi-jun from behind. He looked strong, but he was actually no match at all. With just one kick, Gi-jun sent him to dreamland. Junmo hadn't even recovered from the shock. Just then, Haebyum tried to stop them, but could only watch helplessly as they escaped. After learning his son almost died, Chairman Gu ordered tighter security around the safe house. In reality, the so-called safe house was more like a small prison. Meanwhile, Sim Won was packing his things, preparing to flee, when that feared man appeared again. Gi-jun gave him 1 day to find Junmo's whereabouts at any cost. After being locked in the safe house, Junmo finally became curious about Gi-jun's past. As Manager Kim slowly explained, Junmo realized he had messed with the wrong man. For the entire Korean underworld, Gi-jun was like a god. The existence of Ju-woon Group and Bongsan Group today was all thanks to him. 11 years ago, the whole of Seoul was under Chairman Oh's control. In order to expand their business into Japan, they clashed with the biggest gang in Busan. Chairman Lee and Chairman Gu fell into a trap, and the situation became critical. But just then, Gi-jun showed up. Like a ruthless killing machine, he completely wiped out the Busan gang. From that day on, the status of Chairman Lee and Chairman Gu rose greatly. There were even rumors that Chairman Oh planned to hand over the company to them. Oh Sung-won, jealous and angry over his father's decision, immediately hired assassins to kill the two successors. However, Sim-won leaked his plan. The two of them decided to retaliate in kind. Chairman Oh was devastated by the tragic death of his son. He ordered his men to arrest Chairman Lee and Chairman Gu, trying to uncover the truth behind his son's murder. In fact, the assassin was none other than Gi-seok. To protect his younger brother, Gi-jun took all the blame. He single-handedly stormed Chairman Oh's hideout and rescued the two chairmen. Within just 1 day, Chairman Oh collapsed. Chairman Lee and Chairman Gu split the business and established Ju-woon Group and Bongsan Group. To maintain balance, they set a rule. Anyone who caused trouble had to pay a heavy price. However, the first sacrifice to this rule was Gi-jun. He helped the two chairmen gain everything, but he was also the source of the problem. So, he voluntarily cut his Achilles tendons and retreated to the mountains. After finishing the story, Manager Kim reminded Junmo not to act recklessly again. However, Junmo believed the legend was all fabricated. He hired the 2 American hitmen again to kill Gi-jun. Then, Junmo asked Manager Kim to help him lure Gi-jun into a trap. Manager Kim didn't want to harm his former friend, but Junmo threatened him with the safety of his family, forcing him to choose between family and friendship. With no other choice, Manager Kim arranged a meeting with Gi-jun. He lied, saying he had planned to leave the Bongsan Group and was willing to reveal Junmo's hiding place. Gi-jun crushed the piece of paper in his hand, knowing that Manager Kim was deceiving him. But he still went to the designated location. Soon as Gi-jun opened the door, he was attacked by the 2 hitmen. Using his exceptional skills, he quickly turned the situation around. Even though the 2 strong men were armed with machetes, they still lost their lives. Junmo was nervously waiting for good news, but when he heard Gi-jun's voice, his face turned pale with fear. Meanwhile, Chairman Gu secretly met with Mr. Kim. 11 years ago, it was Mr. Kim who had told the two chairmen that coexistence required rules. Now, Jun-mo was the one breaking the rules, so he had to be dealt with in order to restore balance. However, Chairman Gu didn't mention the rules. Instead, he emphasized that Chairman Lee had already forgiven Jun-mo. He believed that only if Gi-jun was dead would everything come to an end. Since Gi-jun wasn't easy to get rid of, Chairman Gu turned to Mr. Kim for help. Mr. Kim smirked, mocking how selfish and foolish the father and son were. Meanwhile, Jun-mo was still in a panic. He immediately called his friends for help. Soon after, two strong men arrived, one of whom was even a world boxing champion. They easily cleared all the security guards and entered the safe house. When the boxer learned that he was up against a nobody, he sneered. But when Jun-mo mentioned the reward of 1 billion, the two couldn't wait to take him to find Gi-jun. By the time Manager Kim arrived at the safe house, it was empty. He ordered his men to find Jun-mo at all costs. Just as the bodyguards left, Jun-mo called, coldly stating that he would kill Gi-jun himself. Meanwhile, Gi-jun arrived at a private clinic and asked a senior to bandage his wounds. In the past, even when injured, Gi-jun would push through until the end. But now, the senior noticed that things weren't how they used to be. Gi-jun sat in the hallway, lost in thought. Just then, Byung-ho called, urging him to stop. He promised to convince Chairman Lee to settle things by the rule for Gi-seok. Suddenly, Jun-mo interrupted their conversation. Not long ago, Manager Kim had once again betrayed his friend and revealed the address of the baseball stadium. Byung-ho didn't take the young master seriously and advised him to go home. Unexpectedly, Jun-mo swung a baseball bat and brutally ended his life. By the time Manager Kim arrived, it was too late. It turned out that Byung-ho was also his closest friend. Manager Kim couldn't take it anymore and called the young master an idiot. One of the thugs nearby threw Manager Kim aside. Then Jun-mo picked up the bat and finished off the disloyal dog. He even called Gi-jun to brag that he had killed his two friends. Gi-jun struggled to stay calm, but his anger had already reached its limit. He grabbed the specially made baseball bat he had prepared for revenge and ordered Sim-won to properly bury them. After Jun-mo returned to the safe house, he gathered 100 thugs. He tossed a bag of money and declared that whoever brought Gi-jun to him would receive 1 billion in cash. Everyone was thrilled, unaware that death was coming for them next. Soon after, Gi-jun arrived at the safe house. The boxer was confused about why Jun-mo would bet that kind of money on that gimp. Jun-mo just smiled and said the game had only just begun. As soon as Gi-jun opened the door, he saw the corridor packed with people. He kindly warned them that they could leave now. A reckless guy rushed forward, and Gi-jun swung his bat without mercy. Although they were numerous, they were like ants attacking an elephant. As more and more people fell, they began to panic. Even Jun-mo ordered the security team to kill Gi-jun outright. Gi-jun, as if possessed by the god of death, picked up an axe and struck each person's neck with precision. Seeing the situation getting out of control, Jun-mo pinned his last hope on the boxer. To his surprise, the boxer raised the price, demanding a 2 billion bounty. Just then, Gi-jun walked in, dragging the bat behind him. The boxer attacked first, throwing him down the stairs. By now, Gi-jun was exhausted. He could only defend himself, with no chance to fight back. Jun-mo thought he was sure to win and arrogantly admitted to killing Gi-seok. Those words sparked Gi-jun's fighting spirit. He picked up a shard of glass and turned the tide. The boxer cursed him for playing dirty, but this was a fight to the death, where there was no fairness. In the end, Gi-jun's fists rained down like a storm, ending the boxer's life. Seeing this, Jun-mo frantically grabbed a shotgun, but he was so nervous that he missed every shot. Gi-jun smashed the shotgun and then broke Jun-mo's arms and legs. Jun-mo begged for his life, screaming that even if he died, Gi-seok would never come back. At that moment, Gi-jun only wanted to avenge his innocent brother. At the same time, Chairman Gu kidnapped Officer Han, who was in charge of the Gi-seok case. Chairman Gu had investigated that on the day Gi-seok died, no one reported the incident. However, Officer Han was the first to arrive at the scene, which meant he had known Gi Seok would die. To save himself, Officer Han had no choice but to hand over the phone recording with the mastermind. Hearing the familiar voice in the recording, Chairman Gu immediately recognized who it was. Unable to reach his son, he began to feel uneasy. Suddenly his phone rang, but the caller was Gi Jun. He claimed that he had dealt with Jun Mo according to the rules. Hearing this, Chairman Gu completely broke down. On his way home, Gi Jun couldn't help but recall his last conversation with his younger brother. Just then, a special car appeared, and before Gi Jun could react, he was knocked into the sea. The assassin was one of Mr. Kim's men. He was also the real killer behind Gi Seok's death. That day, after Gi Seok had chased away the delinquents, he found someone hiding in the elevator. The assassin was highly skilled, continually targeting vital points. Faced with such a strong opponent, Gi Seok struggled more and more. The assassin seized the opportunity and stabbed him in the neck. In his final moments, Gi Seok managed to remove the assassin's mask. He was none other than Japan's top hitman, Shiman. The next morning, a rescue team recovered Gi Jun's car from the sea, but no body was found. In fact, Gi Jun had drifted to the shore. Fortunately, Hyebyom found him in time and rushed him to the clinic for treatment. Meanwhile, Chairman Gu urgently met with Chairman Lee and presented an investigative document. He traced the bribery that Officer Han received back to a shell company of the Ju-woon group. Chairman Gu analyzed that all of this was part of Chairman Lee's conspiracy. From the start, he never intended to hand the company over to Gi Seok. That's why he hired someone to kill Gi Seok and frame Junmo for it. Gi Jun would then kill Junmo in revenge for his younger brother. Once everything was over, Gi Jun would also be dealt with to cover up the truth. Ultimately, Ju-woon Group would be smoothly handed over to his precious prosecutor son. Chairman Lee immediately denied the accusations, insisting he had done no such things. But Chairman Gu firmly believed in his judgment and officially declared war on him. Chairman Lee quickly held an emergency meeting. Although using force to resolve the conflict wasn't wise, they wouldn't sit back and wait. Unexpectedly, the first to take action was the prosecutor's office. The high-ranking officials of Bongsan Group were nearly all captured. However, because Gum-san acted 30 minutes earlier, Chairman Gu received a tip-off and narrowly escaped. The chief prosecutor was furious. He questioned Gum-san whether he was acting on his father's orders and deliberately letting Chairman Gu go. Gum-san didn't answer, simply handing over a search warrant targeting Chairman Lee. He said that after they caught Chairman Gu, it was his father's turn. Meanwhile, Chairman Lee suspected that it was Mr. Kim who behind all of this. However, Mr. Kim reminded him that there was one other person capable of doing all that besides him at the prosecutor's office. Chairman Lee sensed something and immediately rushed home. Sure enough, he found a bug in his son's room. He questioned Gum-sun about whether he had recently met with Mr. Kim or made any deals. Gum-sun replied that he was simply doing his duty as a prosecutor. As long as his father was here, he couldn't interfere with any matters of Ju-woon Group. Chairman Lee saw through his lies, but to protect his son, he finally made up his mind. In the past, he had always let others make the choices, which led to him losing his strongest trump card, Gi Jun. Now, he would take control of the decision himself. Soon after, a group of thugs stormed Chairman Gu's hideout and began killing. Even after being stabbed several times, Chairman Gu fought back fiercely. As he was on the brink of death, Chairman Lee appeared and ordered everyone to leave. He whispered that he would do anything for his son, too. Before leaving, Chairman Lee tossed down his pipe as a final farewell to his old friend. However, everything seemed to be part of Mr. Kim's plan. His next target was Chairman Lee. Meanwhile, Gi Jun had fully recovered. He quietly left the clinic and went back to the graveyard. At that moment, Sim Won was celebrating with his colleagues, believing that Gi Jun was dead. The next second, Gi Jun silently appeared beside him. He ordered Sim Won to find out who had killed him. The two of them then visited the graves of their two deceased friends. Just then, they received the news of Chairman Gu's death. Sim Won sensed something was wrong, as Chairman Lee didn't usually do things like this. Gi Jun suspected that he killed his close friend to protect someone important. so he called Chairman Lee to arrange a meeting. Chairman Lee was happy to see Gi-jun still alive, but Gi-jun coldly questioned why he had ordered his death. Chairman Lee was stunned and then confessed a secret. 11 years ago, Chairman Oh brought Mr. Kim in from the police station. His role was to provide inside information from the police and cover up the gang's illegal activities. After Gi-jun left, Mr. Kim had been the one manipulating the balance between the two major groups. He knew everyone's secrets and profited massively from them. Then Chairman Lee played a recording. It turned out that Gi Seok had been deceived by Mr. Kim into believing that Oh Seung-won wanted to kill Gi-jun. To protect his elder brother, he had killed Oh Seung-won. Now, the truth was finally revealed. Chairman Lee still hoped that Gi-jun would take over Ju-woon Group. Gi-jun refused once again, as he now only wanted to avenge his younger brother. Chairman Lee felt guilty towards the two brothers and decided to lure Mr. Kim out. However, Manager Choi was secretly eavesdropping on all their conversations. That evening, Chairman Lee called Mr. Kim, saying there was an urgent matter to discuss. Mr. Kim sensed something was wrong. Sure enough, Gi-jun, who should have been dead, showed up. Before Mr. Kim could explain, his neck was tightly gripped. Suddenly, someone ambushed Gi-jun from behind. It was his old enemy, a former subordinate of Chairman Oh. In that fierce battle, Gi-jun had cut off his hand and sent him to prison. Just as Gi-jun was puzzled, Mr. Kim seized the opportunity to escape. After a brief exchange of blows, the old enemy said, "See you next time," and left. Gi-jun ordered Sim-won to immediately track Mr. Kim and promised this would be the last time. From then on, the two would have no further involvement. But Sim-won hesitated. Messing with the police would bring serious trouble. But in the end, he ordered his men to post the message. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim hid in the police station to avoid being caught. He called Chairman Lee, questioning why he had betrayed him. He even threatened that they needed to meet as soon as possible. Chairman Lee panicked and rushed to the board meeting. Unexpectedly, Gyum-sun stopped his father and said he would take his place at the board meeting. It turned out he had been trying to inherit Ju-woon Group, but his father kept blocking him. So he teamed up with Mr. Kim and decided to take his father's position together. Chairman Lee was instantly stunned. He didn't want his son to follow in his footsteps, haunted by nightmares every night. But Gyum-sun didn't understand his father's good intentions. He pulled out a search warrant and confined his father at home. Only then did Chairman Lee realize that Manager Choi had also betrayed him. He was filled with despair, never imagining he would end up like this. To protect himself, he took a secret weapon from the safe. Meanwhile, Gyum-sun attended the board meeting. He announced that from now on, he would take his father's place. A director stood up and opposed, mocking Gyum-sun as nothing but a spoiled brat, unfit to be a leader. Then he left the room, followed by others. Suddenly, a loud shout from the door made everyone stop. Gyum-sun warned them that if they didn't follow him, death was their only option. Meanwhile, Mr. Kim's car had already left the police station. Gi-jun received the news and headed to the designated location. However, the driver was not Mr. Kim, but Gi-jun's old enemy. He questioned Gi-jun why he hadn't just killed him back then, which left him feeling deeply ashamed. With that, he launched a fierce attack. To make it a fair fight, the man threw Gi-jun a knife. Unfortunately, in terms of knife skills, he was still no match for Gi-jun, so he suddenly launched a sneak attack, aiming to force Gi-jun to end his life. Before dying, he called Mr. Kim, asking Gi-jun to finish everything. By then, Mr. Kim had already arrived at Chairman Lee's house, but he felt that if Chairman Lee stayed alive, he'd be a danger. To his surprise, Chairman Lee held a pistol. Just as the tension rose, Chairman Lee suddenly coughed violently. They instantly grappled, fighting for control of the pistol. In the end, Chairman Lee was shot and died. When Gi-jun arrived, Chairman Lee sat motionless in the chair. Suddenly, the police burst in and arrested Gi-jun on charges of assassinating Chairman Lee. They even placed the weapon in his hand. At that moment, Mr. Kim walked in wearing a police uniform, taunting that they had met again. In the interrogation room, Mr. Kim said that, thanks to Gi-jun, their plan could be realized. Gi-jun wanted to know if he had killed Gi Seok. Mr. Kim hinted that the mastermind was someone else, but Gi-jun would never get the chance to meet him. Then he ordered his men to take Gi-jun away. On the way, the car turned into a construction tunnel. They planned to take care of him there. However, even with handcuffs, Gi-jun could easily take down all of them. In a critical moment, a truck saved his life. Sim-won was sent by Mr. Kim to clean up the scene. But out of old times' sake, he not only saved Gi-jun, but also handed him Mr. Kim's secret files. Gi-jun worried that Sim-won might die because of it. Sim-won simply smiled, saying he would leave Korea before he was caught. Before leaving, he handed Chairman Lee's belongings to Gi-jun, hoping he could end it all quickly. Mr. Kim mistakenly believed that Gi-jun had died and completely let his guard down. However, he didn't expect Gum-sun to have overheard the entire murder of his father. Manager Choi wanted to kill Mr. Kim to avenge Chairman Lee. Gum-sun stated that it wasn't the right time yet, because Mr. Kim still had the Ju-woon group's secret files. But Gum-sun wasn't going to wait passively. He used his prosecutor authority to search Mr. Kim's office. When Mr. Kim heard the news, he was furious and immediately called to question why Gum-sun did that. But Gum-sun coldly asked, "Why did you kill my father?" Mr. Kim panicked instantly. He tried to contact his most trusted hitman, only to find out he had already switched sides and was now working for Gum-sun. It turned out that Shimane was a Japanese assassin wanted by Interpol. Gum-sun promised to help him clear his name and let him stay in Korea, but only if Shimane killed a few people for him. Mr. Kim seemed cornered, but he still had a trump card. When Gum-sun met Mr. Kim for the first time, he trusted him too easily and revealed all his plans without reservation. His ambition wasn't just to control two major groups, but the entire city of Seoul. The cunning Mr. Kim secretly recorded their conversation and hid the evidence in a locker at the golf course. Meanwhile, Gum-sun went back to the prosecutor's office looking for Ju-woon Group's confidential files. There, he accidentally found an illegal pistol in a handbag. Later, he went to the church to hold a funeral for his father. At the same time, Sim-won arrived at the harbor, ready to escape abroad. Due to the captain being 20 minutes late, the assistant got out of the car to check the situation. Suddenly, two killers rushed over, intending to kill Sim-won. He instantly drew his dagger and fought back desperately. Even though he was severely injured, Sim-won managed to kill both of them. He then grabbed the money box and staggered to find his assistant. But just as he relaxed, the assistant suddenly stabbed him in the abdomen. Such a loyal man died at the hands of a traitor. Later, the assistant called Manager Choi and said the job was done. Now, the only obstacle left on Gum-sun's path to success was Mr. Kim. Meanwhile, Gi-jun got the recording evidence from Mr. Kim's men. He then entered an abandoned building but encountered another assassin. Shimane had also been sent by Geum-san to kill Mr. Kim. But now he decided to deal with Gi-jun first. Gi-jun, unarmed, was initially at a disadvantage. Shimane mocked him, saying he was just like his younger brother, nothing special. It was only at that moment that Gi-jun finally found his true enemy. He lunged at Shimane like a beast, trying to wrestle the dagger away. Shimane noticed and stabbed straight through his palm in the same manner. However, Gi-jun was different from Gi-seok. He firmly held onto Shimane's fist and continued to punch his head repeatedly. The situation quickly turned around. Without hesitation, Gi-jun stabbed Shimane in the throat, just like he had done to Gi-seok. Before leaving, he kicked Shimane hard. Seeing Gi-jun approaching, Mr. Kim panicked, but since he had a gun, he still appeared very confident. As soon as Gi-jun opened the door, Mr. Kim fired a warning shot. Seeing the evidence in Gi-jun's hands, Mr. Kim suggested they team up to kill Geum-sun. However, Gi-jun ignored him completely. He deliberately caused a distraction and then tackled Mr. Kim to the ground. After losing his gun, Mr. Kim tried to fight back with a dagger, but it was all in vain. Gi-jun returned all the pain he had endured over the years to him. In the end, Mr. Kim descended into hell in despair. Soon after, Gi-jun attended Chairman Lee's funeral and returned his pipe. Gum-sun asked if Mr. Kim was dead. Gi-jun didn't answer, instead questioning why he had done it. Gum-sun confessed that he had been jealous of Gi-jun and his brother. They easily gave up the position he had always longed for. Gi-jun never expected that all the tragedy had happened for this reason. He warned Gum-sun not to die before Chairman Lee was buried. Later, Gi-jun visited his younger brother one last time, knowing they would soon be reunited. Then, he handed the evidence to Haebyom and advised him not to take any more risks, as someone had to live to finish everything properly. After the funeral, Gum-sun eagerly merged two major companies. He also bribed the mayor to join his grand plan. At the celebration banquet, Gum-sun announced he would create a new system to legalize public officials' illegal profits. While he was passionately giving his speech, Haebyom sent the recording to the media. The explosive news spread quickly. Guests at the party rushed to leave, trying to distance themselves. A prosecutor mocked Gum-sun for being extremely foolish. Gum-sun couldn't hold back his anger and killed him. Seeing he had lost control, Manager Choi immediately stepped in and ordered him to leave. Just then, Gi-jun appeared downstairs and knocked out a bodyguard in an instant. As others were about to attack, Manager Choi suddenly showed up and ordered them to leave. He urged Gi-jun to stop for old time's sake. Gi-jun didn't respond, so Manager Choi pretended to lead him, but actually planned to ambush him. He explained that he was just doing his job. Even before his death, he held no grudges against Gi-jun, and instead wished him to fulfill his mission. Soon after, Gi-jun arrived at Chairman Lee's former office. He asked Gum-sun if he was happy sitting in that position. Gum-sun said it wasn't as good as he had imagined. He confessed that he envied how his father was surrounded by looks of respect and admiration. Gi-jun replied that it wasn't respect, but fear, which would eventually become a burden. That was also the reason Chairman Lee didn't want his son to follow in his footsteps. Now, it was time to end everything. Although Gum-sun fired first, he didn't want to kill Gi-jun. Instead, he wanted to end his own failed life. Gi-jun quickly stopped him because he didn't deserve to die so easily. Ironically, Gum-sun ended up dying in the same chair as his father. After the revenge was completed, Gi-jun returned to the forest. In a daze, he saw Gi-seok sitting beside him. He joked that he wanted to quit and run a camping site with Gi-jun. This time, Gi-jun agreed. As the snowflakes fell, Gi-jun drifted into a dream and never woke up.